Welcome back. London has come to be the preferred playground of wealthy Russians, but up until now, they've been putting most of their money into lavish properties or glamorous football teams. That changed with the news that Alexander Lebedev has bought London's main evening newspaper, the Evening Standard. Lebedev is a banking billionaire who shares a KGB background with a certain Vladimir Putin. With the credit crunch and technological changes ravaging the news business, and with so few media buyers out there, sellers can't be choosers. But, as the Listening Post's Meenakshi Ravi reports, the UK media are wondering, what is the man with the KGB past up to? And how will that affect the future of the newspaper?
Alexander Lebedev is a new kind of global media mogul. He's a fashion-conscious Russian billionaire with political ambitions. He's a man who likes to dress up and tell people how to avoid life's pitfalls, like in this anti-gambling advert. And he used to work for the Soviet Union's feared security service, the KGB. Exactly who is the so-called spy who came in for the gold?
He's charming, and you think, oh, what a nice guy. But, you know, behind all that, there's a big brain working it out.
He has his own beliefs and values, which he thinks are right.
After 33 years being in England, I had a kind of strange feeling that it's all coming back. I got away from them, and now they're coming back.
As a co-owner of Novaya Gazeta, the newspaper where slain journalist Anna Politkovskaya used to work, Lebedev's name is linked with hard-hitting investigative journalism. This press conference was held shortly after a lawyer and journalist working for Novaya Gazeta were shot dead in Moscow. Anastasia Babyrova is the paper's fourth journalist to be killed in a decade. She and human rights attorney Stanislav Markelov were killed in what appeared to be a professional hit.
Anastasia Babyrova was rushed to hospital with a severe gunshot wound to the head. Doctors fought for her life, but she died a few hours after the shooting.
Lebedev's reaction was to call for reporters to have the right to bear arms.
I don't think there's a lot of people in this country who are keen to become journalists these days.
Lebedev's media empire is expanding. He's bought London's main newspaper, the Evening Standard. Owned by Lord Rothermere, the Standard was considered an integral part of an established and successful British media empire, the Daily Mail Group, and definitely not for sale. But it appears that there was a price, £1. That's the cost of just 2 copies. People getting their news online and from free sheets has hit the Evening Standard hard.
When Rupert Murdoch decided I'm not letting London be run by the Daily Mail Group, then it was quite clear by launching his free sheet that they had to compete, and that competition undermined their own paid-for title, the Evening Standard, and we watched the sales go down to what really, in real terms, about 150,000, given that London's got 8 million people. That's a very small percentage.
It was as a young KGB spy.
When Lebedev's name was mentioned as buyer, the UK press focused on one fact. During the 1980s, he worked for the KGB at the Soviet Union Embassy in London. Lebedev spent a total of 10 years in the security service.
The prejudices and preoccupation of the British media with everything which has any background in the Russian Secret Service is immense.
Coming to the Standard, it's a very smart move. It gets you political power, both here and in Russia. It gets you the ear of politicians, here and in Russia. And it means that you are that much more tricky to move against if you are the Russian government.
A letter in the Times newspaper from a politician has questioned whether Lebedev is a fit and proper person to run an influential newspaper. Lebedev claims he spent a lot of his KGB days in London monitoring the media. Now he scours the papers for negative comments about himself.
I've been monitoring all the press coverage in Britain, and I haven't noticed, some jokes with a very good sense of humor, yes. Like, I'm KGB, give me your paper. But otherwise, I've seen that letter in Times from an MP. Well, if somebody thinks I'm to be checked for a special procedure, to be a proper person to buy a newspaper, I'm there.
I have a right to ask to what extent he indeed treats his past as a kind of shameful, and it looks like he doesn't. He makes a kind of joke out of it.
Lebedev's credentials as a newspaper owner so far look impressive. Novaya Gazeta has become a beacon of free speech inside an increasingly authoritarian and centrally controlled country.
I'm thinking I've replaced the Russian state It is the Russian state who's supposed to be defending independent media, and what the Russian state is doing is that let's support the raw materials and metals.
I would describe Alexander Lebedev as a constructive critic. There are a lot of unconstructive critics who are just lashing out on personalities rather than policies. Alexander Lebedev is much more sort of focused on the real deeds.
Lebedev plans a panel of the great and the good to oversee the paper. These include former Soviet Premier Gorbachev, the UK's Tony Blair, and U2's Bono. If they don't examine him too closely, plenty others will. With the letters KGB sure to sell papers, questions about his past are unlikely to disappear.
Russia hasn't gone through the process of getting rid of the establishment, which was very much connected to the security forces. And now the country practically ruled by the same kind of people. And now they're coming to England.
Do I think he's still in touch with the KGB? Nobody in the higher echelons of Russian government is not in touch with the KGB. But equally the same is true of the British establishment. They're in touch with MI6.
Lebedev says he just wants to give Londoners a better newspaper.
To help it survive and hopefully become more attractive, become break-even one day, and be an ongoing concern. So sort of preserving its civic duty role, but also entertaining the people and sort of helping itself, going through the bad times and one day maybe become break-even.
Is he in it for public service? Well, that would be nice to think of. He certainly says that, but then every owner almost says that. Is he in it for propaganda? Maybe, but what kind of propaganda? That's baffling too. Prestige? Well, you know, perhaps he wants a knighthood, perhaps he wants a peerage. Why? That would be strange too.
So who is Mr. Lebedev?
And political influence? What political influence would the Evening Standard have?
In the US, a Mexican, Carlos Slim, is helping to keep the New York Times afloat. There's no doubt that a trend is emerging.
You're going to see emergent economies like Brazil, like India, like China and Russia deciding to get back into those countries that have previously ruled the roost and decide to buy up assets. And among them, clearly, will be the media.
The last time a former KGB spy made the headlines in the UK, it was when Alexander Litvinenko was poisoned with polonium. This former spy will be hoping just to make the headlines and not be in them.
More Global Village Voices now on the Russian newspaper rescue.
Taking over the Evening Standard is more a threat to Putin than to anyone in the UK. Because with his newspaper in Russia, Lebedev cannot really tackle and address all of the problems he wants to. But with a newspaper in the UK, he can gain the support that he wants at home.
Until recently, you would have expected a huge outcry about a former KGB agent coming in and buying the Evening Standard. But there hasn't been that outcry. It's not just about the decline in the influence of newspapers generally, or about the fact that the Cold War is so long ago. It's also about the fact that under its recent, often divisive editor, many Londoners have simply fallen out of love with the paper. Now, Alexander Lebedev has said that he wants to make it more wanted by Londoners, and that's great, but he's going to have a lot of work to do.
Finally, it's the biggest event on the American television calendar, the annual Super Bowl football game. This year's matchup drew 95.4 million viewers. Nearly half of the people who own TVs in the U.S. were watching, and not all of them were fans of American football. Millions tune in just for the ads. The airtime is incredibly costly, and advertisers spare no expense in producing the commercials, which are put together by the best, brightest, and funniest ad writers in America. Some of those ads have made their way onto the World Wide Web. We've grabbed a few of them and turned them into our Internet Video of the Week. We'll see you next time at The Listening Post.
Drivers who want to get the most out of their cars, it's Bridgestone or nothing.
It
economy's been a little rough, man.
Oh, man, just brutal.
You know, it's times like these that E-Trade can really help you replan your investments.
Yeah.
Take control. Rise up.
Take these broken wings.
No.
What?
Stop.
What, I can't flex the golden pipes?
It's not the venue.
It's inspirational.
Any place.
Fine.
Okay, where was
And learn to fly again.
E-Trade. Hey, man. What's that?
It's my crystal ball. Here, watch. Free Doritos at the office today? I think that's a yes! Free Doritos!